tremor begins low, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrates through the soles of your heavy work boots, through the very bone of your teeth. It is a familiar rhythm here in the Progenitor Forges, a constant percussion that underscores every waking moment. You stand on a raised gantry, the heat a palpable cloak against your skin, even through the insulated layers of your tunic. Below, a river of molten chromium alloy, impossibly bright, cascades down an immense, heat-warped chute, its furious radiance painting the entire cavern in shades of shifting crimson and searing orange. Sparks, like ephemeral insects of pure fire, dance upwards, spiraling into the oppressive, smoke-laden air before winking out. Your gaze, usually unblinking, tracks the flow, observing the subtle shifts in viscosity, the way the light refracts off its surface. Perfection, you muse, is not an endpoint, but a constant state of refinement. To achieve a state of pure, unadulterated form, shedding all extraneous elements of being, until only the essential structure remains. This has always been your singular, unwavering goal. It is why you are here, an obsidian sculptor in a realm of raw, unbridled creation, shaping not just metal, but the very essence of purpose. The forges are a crucible, both for the Empire's formidable armaments and for your own philosophy. The cacophony is immense, the rhythmic clang-crash of colossal hammers striking superheated ingots, the high-pitched HISSSSSS of quenching fluids engulfing freshly forged components, sending plumes of scalding steam into the cavernous space. Each sound is a note in a symphony of industry, a testament to the Empire's relentless drive for order. You feel the deep, guttural shudder as another immense hydraulic press engages. Its massive platens slowly, inexorably, descending to flatten and condense. This is the heart of Imperial power, where the abstract concepts of dominion are hammered into tangible reality. Your own obsidian chamber, your personal sanctum of refinement, feels 1,000,000 miles away from this raw, untamed force, yet also intrinsically linked to it. The tools of unmaking, you remind yourself, begin with the tools of making. A shrill, insistent chime pierces the clamor, emanating from the comlink embedded in your wrist. You tap it, and the face of Centurion Jax flickers into existence, his features, usually set in a permanent grimace, now etched with a deeper anxiety. "Sculptor," he barks, his voice tinny but urgent, the directive mandate. It's been amplified. Section Gamma 7 requires your immediate assessment. The new hull plating specifications are challenging. The words directive mandate settle upon you with the weight of newly forged durasteel. It is the overarching principle of imperial governance, asserting the right and duty of the emperor to impose order and civilization upon the galactic populace. This directive justifies all imperial actions, from resource acquisition to planetary subjugation, framed as a necessary measure for universal stability. For you, it has always been a paradox. It seeks to impose external order, often through chaotic means, while your own quest for purity is an internal, self-directed discipline. Empire's thirst for ever greater forms, ever sharper edges, ever stronger defenses, aligns, in a twisted way, with your own drive for perfection. You are a sculptor of forms, and the Empire provides the clay, the fire, and the endless demand. Challenging how, Centurion? You ask, your voice level, betraying none of the internal tremors that the word amplified always causes. Unpredictable flux is anathema to you. It is the grit in the gears, the imperfection in the alloy. It is the one thing that can paralyze your will, locking your mind in a frantic loop of analysis, unable to move forward. A new alloy composite, Jax explains, his eyes darting to some unseen display. For the new destroyer-class vessels, the Xeno-Purge edicts have intensified. We need a plating that can withstand plasma discharge from designated non-human combatants and still maintain structural integrity at atmospheric reentry speeds. The purity threshold is impossibly high, sculptor. We're getting fractures at the molecular level during rapid cooling. It's an issue of material stress and crystallization patterns. You nod slowly. The Xeno-Purge edicts, Imperial campaigns aimed at eradicating or subjugating non-human species deemed undesirable or a threat to galactic stability. These operations often involve systematic eradication or forced integration into Imperial labor forces. It is the crudest form of unmaking, the forced removal of extraneous elements from the galactic body, but one executed with such brutality and lack of nuance that you find yourself repulsed, even as you appreciate the conceptual drive for order. Your own methods are precise, surgical, aimed at elevating, not merely destroying. Still, the need for new, stronger materials affirms your role, validates your pursuit of ultimate form. This challenge, though born of chaotic conflict, presents an opportunity for you to push the boundaries of material perfection, to sculpt the ultimate defense, devoid of flaw. Send me the schematics and metallurgical data, you instruct, your mind already sifting through possibilities, envisioning the crystalline lattice structures, the annealing curves, the precise molecular bonds required. I will be in section Gamma 7 within the half cycle. You sever the connection and turn, the constant heat of the forges, a familiar companion. Descending the rattling gantry, your path takes you past rows of workers, their faces grim, streaked with soot and sweat, their movements fluid and practiced. They are extensions of the machines, their humanity refined away by the endless cycle of creation. You admire their dedication, their unwavering commitment to form, even if that form is simply the rhythmic swing of a hammer. They are a reflection, in a sense, of your own goal, stripped down to essential function. The air thickens with the earthy aroma of nutrient paste, supplemented with a synthetic berry essence, as you pass the main galley. It's the scheduled meal break for this shift. You observe the workers, hunched over their ration cubes, their conversations muted, their movements economical. There's a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor in the floor beneath your boots, a vibration that speaks of forces far larger than the forging presses. It's a distant hum, not quite the rhythmic thrum of the hydraulic presses, but something else, something older. You dismiss it, attributing it to the vastness of the forge complex, the interconnectedness of its colossal machinery. Yet, a sliver of unease, a flicker of unpredictable flux, enters your thoughts. As you navigate the labyrinthine corridors, the sheer scale of the Progenitor Forges becomes overwhelming. They are not merely factories. They are cathedrals of industry, hollowed-out planets, or immense asteroids transformed into self-contained ecosystems of production. Overhead, colossal cranes move with deliberate, agonizing slowness, hauling titanic loads of raw ore or newly cast components. Light emanates not from external sources, but from the glowing rivers of metal, the erupting furnaces, and the countless warning strobes that pulse red and amber in the dim, smoke-filled distances. The air is a cocktail of ozone, superheated metal, and the faint, sweet scent of quenching chemicals. You arrive at Section Gamma 7. Unlike the more open forging bays, this area is a maze of containment fields and intricate diagnostic arrays where newly formulated alloys are subjected to extreme stresses. Centurion Jax is already there, overseeing a team of metallurgists, their faces tense as they stare at a holographic projection shimmering above a workstation. The projection displays a molecular lattice, fractured and distorted, highlighting the problematic crystallization patterns. Sculptor, Jax greets, his voice tight with impatience. We've tried recalibrating the thermal stress applicators, adjusting the alloy composition by 0.02%, even experimented with different atmospheric quenching agents. Nothing works. The microfractures persist. You step closer, observing the shimmering lattice. It is indeed an issue of unwanted flux, a fundamental instability within the material's core. The Empire demands absolute integrity, absolute predictability. To yield to such a flaw would be to admit weakness, to allow an extraneous element to remain. Your jaw tightens. This is your domain. This is where your unmaking truly begins, where you strip away the inherent imperfections of matter until only the essential structure, the pure form, remains. The problem is not merely in the cooling, Centurion, you state, your voice cutting through the hushed tension. It's in the inherent memory of the base metals. They resist the new bonding structures. They recall their former, less refined states. We need to erase that memory, to sculpt the very energy that binds them, not just their physical form. Jax blinks, his brow furrowing. Erase their memory, sculpt their energy. Sculptor, we're talking about durasteel and ceramite, not sentient beings. The principles are universal, you reply, your gaze fixed on the fractured holographic lattice. All matter possesses an intrinsic resonance, a vibrational signature of its past states. To achieve true purity, these resonances must be silenced. We must introduce a targeted, high-frequency energy pulse during the initial phase of the thermal shock, not merely during the quenching. A disruptive field that doesn't fracture, but reorders the base frequencies, guiding the crystallization into a new, stable pattern, forcing it to forget its previous weaknesses. The metallurgists exchange uneasy glances. It is an unorthodox approach, bordering on the esoteric, but your reputation precedes you. You are the Obsidian Sculptor, the one who achieves the impossible, who pushes the boundaries of material science through methods that some whisper are almost psychic. Just as Jax considers your words, a new figure approaches. You recognize him instantly. Orion Thorn, the root tender. His presence here, in the heart of the Progenitor Forges, is unexpected. Orion is a stern but fair administrator overseeing intergalactic scientific endeavors, whose approval you desperately need for your own independent research into advanced material synthesis, a project that requires significant resource allocation and, crucially, access to the deepest, most stable energy conduits within the forges. He typically concerns himself with bioluminescent flora and the ecological balance of the canopy commons, a vast, engineered biosphere far above the industrial depths. Orion Thorn is a stark contrast to the grim-faced Imperial officers and the soot-stained workers. His tunic is a soft, muted green, devoid of Imperial insignia, and his hands, though strong, bear the telltale stains of rich, dark soil, not grease or slag. He carries a small, ornate data slate, its surface glowing with intricate botanical diagrams. He moves with a quiet dignity, his eyes, the color of moss after a rain, surveying the industrial chaos with a detached, almost melancholic curiosity. "Sculptor," Orion says, his voice a low baritone, calm amidst the clanging. He inclines his head slightly. "Centurion Jax, forgive the intrusion. I was informed the central power conduits in this sector were experiencing anomalous energy fluctuations. My bioluminescent cultures in the canopy commons are highly sensitive to even minor harmonic shifts. It threatens the propagation of the luminos virides. His goal, you know, is to ensure the propagation of bioluminescent flora throughout the canopy commons, a goal so utterly divorced from the brutal necessities of the forges. You feel a familiar tightening in your chest. Orion represents the unpredictable flux you so abhor. His concerns are biological, organic, prone to whims of nature. Your concerns are structural, precise, engineered. Yet, his approval is vital. Without it, your research, your deeper dives into the fundamental forces of unmaking, stalls. Anomalous energy fluctuations, you repeat, a flicker of irritation in your tone. Centurion Jax and I are discussing critical hull plating design for the Directive mandate. Any fluctuations are likely a byproduct of increased energy draw for stress testing. They are temporary and irrelevant to the larger purpose. Orion's gaze meets yours, unblinking. Irrelevant. Sculptor, the ecological integrity of the canopy commons directly impacts the atmospheric recyclers for the entire forge complex. A cascade failure in the flora, brought on by sustained harmonic interference, could deplete oxygen reserves by 23% within 2 standard cycles. Your larger purpose would then be entirely without breath. His logic is unassailable, and it rankles you. He presents a complex, interwoven system where your singular focus on material perfection is shown to be just one thread in a larger, more fragile tapestry. It is the very essence of unpredictable flux. My apologies, root tender thorn, Jax interjects, sensing the rising tension. We can reroute power if necessary, but the Xeno-Purge edicts are escalating. The Emperor demands these vessels. We cannot compromise on their integrity. Orion sighs, a sound that seems too soft for the roar of the forges. Integrity must extend beyond the hull, Centurion. It must encompass the life it protects and the systems that sustain it. Sculptor, he turns his attention back to you, his eyes holding a curious blend of deference and challenge. I came down here not just about the flora. I heard whispers of an artifact newly recovered, something found on the fringes of the Xylos sector just before the Imperial fleet moved in. They say it's being brought here to the deepest, most secure levels of the forges for analysis. Something called an echo catcher unit. The name hangs in the air, momentarily cutting through the industrial din. The echo catcher unit. You have heard the rumors, of course. An artifact capable of recording and replaying residual psychic impressions. Its primary component, they say, is a multifaceted crystal held within a cage of interwoven neural filaments. Holding it close, one could perceive a faint static buzz, an intangible thrumming that hints at the myriad fragments of thought it might contain. Such a device in your hands could be a tool beyond measure. If matter holds memory, perhaps thoughts do too, and this unit could be the ultimate tool for stripping away the extraneous, for achieving ultimate mental purity. Or it could be a source of unimaginable chaos, a conduit for all the uncontrolled flux of the galaxy. Your mind races, a familiar anxiety beginning to coil in your gut. I have no knowledge of such an artifact, you state, your voice carefully neutral, though your pulse quickens. Lies are imperfections, but strategically withheld truths are sometimes necessary for the pursuit of higher forms. Orion's gaze is discerning, perhaps too discerning. He knows you are holding back. No matter, Orion replies, though his eyes linger on your face for a moment longer than necessary. If such a device were indeed brought here, its energy signature could cause precisely the kind of harmonic destabilization my flora cannot withstand. I must insist, Sculptor, that any such artifact be secured and shielded from the central power grid, or my approval for your deep core energy research will be permanently withheld. His words are a direct challenge, a thread of unpredictable flux woven into your carefully constructed plans. Your need for his approval clashes with your sudden, intense curiosity about the echo catcher, and more importantly, with your growing fear of uncontrolled psychic phenomena, of the synaptic cascade protocol that Martha Crankshaw, the synaptic sentinel, is apparently trying to neutralize. I understand your concerns, root tender, you concede, though the concession grates against your will. I will investigate the rumored artifact, if only to ensure it poses no threat to the structural integrity of the forges, or to the stability of your flora. You make the word sound almost derogatory, an unrefined, untamed thing. Orion gives a curt nod, seemingly satisfied for now. He turns, his green tunic a splash of alien color against the crimson and steel backdrop, and makes his way back the way he came, his bioluminescent data slate still glowing softly. Watch him go, a fresh wave of irritation washing over you. His interjection, his mere presence, has introduced an element of uncertainty into your schedule, into your carefully ordered world. Sculptor, Jax prompts, drawing you back to the task at hand. The hull plating, you turn to the holographic lattice, but your mind is already elsewhere. The echo catcher unit, the synaptic cascade protocol, Martha Crankshaw, and Orion Thorn, a perpetual thorn in the side of your ordered existence. The directive mandate, in its quest for stability, had inadvertently flung open a gate to unpredictable chaos, and you, the Obsidian Sculptor, felt the very foundations of your carefully unmade world begin to shudder. You spend the next several cycles immersed in the metallurgical data, devising a solution for the hull plating. Your method is, as always, precise, involving a multi-phase sonic resonance field applied during the crucial moments of solidification. It works. The microfractures vanish, replaced by a perfect, unblemished crystalline structure. The new hull plating becomes a testament to your philosophy. Through targeted unmaking, true form emerges. You provide your recommendations to Jax, the Centurion's relief palpable, and then, without awaiting commendation, you withdraw. Your mind is already fixed on the echo catcher. The rumors prove true. The echo catcher unit has been brought into the forges, not for your scientific department, but for a clandestine Imperial research division deep within the secure, obsidian-lined sublevels. This secrecy only heightens your interest and your apprehension. The deeper you delve into the Progenitor Forges, the further you move from the industrial clamor and heat. The cooler the air becomes, the more the echoes of hammering fade into a pervasive, unsettling hum. Your obsidian chamber, the place where you conduct your true work, is located several levels below even these research labs, a sanctum where the very bedrock is shaped by your touch. You navigate the restricted corridors with practiced ease. Your security clearances, though not high enough for direct access to the artifact, allow you passage through many adjacent areas. The walls here are polished, a deep, featureless black, reflecting your own distorted image like a silent accusation. You run a gloved hand along a particularly smooth section. The chill of the material is not just from its inherent properties. It carries a subtle, deeper cold, a resonance you know intimately. This is the true nature of obsidian, of the things you have shaped. The air in these sublevels is sterile, recycled, and devoid of the metallic tang of the upper forges. Yet, a new scent emerges, faint but persistent, a metallic ozone, a hint of something electrical and alive. It leads you unerringly to a heavily guarded sector. Through a reinforced viewport, you glimpse a laboratory bristling with specialized sensors and containment fields. In the center, suspended within a shimmering field of energy, is the echo catcher unit. It is precisely as the rumors described, a multifaceted crystal, glowing with an inner, soft blue light, held captive within an intricate cage of interwoven neural filaments that pulse with a faint, silvery current. Even from behind the thick duraglass, you feel it, a faint, static buzz, an intangible thrumming that seems to vibrate not in the air, but directly against your skull. It is a symphony of whispers, a cacophony of fragmented thoughts, a reservoir of raw, uncontrolled psychic energy. It is the very definition of unpredictable flux, solidified into an object, and you feel an inexplicable pull towards it, a horrifying fascination. To control such chaos, to distill it into pure, ordered information, would be the ultimate act of unmaking. As you stand there, observing, a figure emerges from the shadows of the lab. Martha Crankshaw. Her uniform is stark, black, and severe, devoid of any adornment, a physical manifestation of her role as synaptic sentinel. Her face is sharp, angular, framed by an unforgiving crop of dark hair. Her eyes, the color of gunmetal, are fixed on the echo catcher unit, not with curiosity, but with an intense, predatory focus. Her goal, you recall, is to neutralize the synaptic cascade protocol. You watch as she approaches the containment field, her gloved hand resting against the shimmering barrier. Her lips move, though you cannot hear her words through the thick glass. Her expression is one of grim determination, a warrior facing a formidable, insidious enemy. She seems to be evaluating the echo catcher, not as an artifact of study, but as a weapon to be disarmed, a disease to be purged. Suddenly, a small, polished obsidian bead, nestled deep in the hidden pocket of your tunic, grows inexplicably cold against your skin. It's a relic from your earliest days as an obsidian sculptor, a small, seemingly insignificant object. You chipped it from a discarded fragment of a crude, early attempt at shaping a personal sigil, a form you deemed imperfect and thus requiring unmaking. You'd kept it, a tangible reminder of the cost of your craft, a fragment of your own past, of the imperfections you de-shed. Now, it pulses with a chilling echo, a silent alarm, as if resonating with the very flux Martha Crankshaw seeks to neutralize. You withdraw from the viewport, a decision forming in your mind. This artifact, this echo catcher, represents a convergence of all the elements that both repel and attract you. It embodies unpredictable flux, the synaptic cascade protocol, and the potential for a new form of unmaking. You must acquire it, to control it, to refine its chaotic input into something pure, ordered, and useful for the Empire's directive mandate. That would be the ultimate expression of your philosophy. The following cycles are spent in meticulous preparation. You adjust your schedule, feigning increased dedication to various Imperial manufacturing projects, all while subtly rerouting personnel and diverting resources. Your goal is to bypass the security, not through brute force, but through an intricate dance of logic and engineering, leveraging your intimate knowledge of the Forge's systems. You design a series of sonic emitters and microdisruptors, disguised as calibration tools, intended to disable the containment field without triggering alarms. Your internal world is a maelstrom of calculated risks and obsessive planning, pushing aside the persistent hum of the echo catcher, the unsettling chill of the obsidian bead. Orion Thorn, the root tender, reappears unexpectedly in your outer workshop, his green tunic a stark contrast to the utilitarian gray of your space. He carries a small, distressed sapling, its bioluminescent leaves drooping. "Sculptor," he begins, his voice tight with concern. The harmonic fluctuations persist. The luminos virides are dying. This sapling, it is one of my oldest, most resilient specimens, but even it cannot withstand the interference. He places the sapling gently on your workbench, amidst your precision tools and molecular schematics. Its leaves, normally a vibrant, pulsating green, are dull, almost transparent, the delicate light within them flickering weakly. You feel a pang of something akin to guilt, or perhaps just annoyance at this further intrusion of the organic into your ordered existence. Your aversion to unpredictable flux makes you want to dismiss it, to ignore the problem until it ceases to be yours. But Orion's approval for your deep core energy research, for the future of your unmaking, is still paramount. "I told you, root tender," you say, perhaps too sharply. "I found no direct evidence of the echo catcher's energy interfering with the main grid. Its containment field is robust." "Perhaps," Orion counters, his gaze firm, "but its mere presence, its resonance, could be the issue. Or perhaps someone is attempting to circumvent its containment, and those attempts are causing the interference. Are you certain, sculptor, that your own pursuits do not inadvertently contribute to this problem?" His words sting. He is hinting at your secret research, at your subtle manipulations of the Forge's energy grid for your own ends. He is implying a selfishness in your pursuit of purity, a disregard for the interconnectedness of systems. Your will begins to paralyze, caught between the need for his approval and the growing desire for the echo catcher. "My pursuits are for the betterment of Imperial infrastructure, root tender," you retort, your voice betraying a hint of defensiveness. "Unlike your delicate flora, they ensure the very survival of the Empire itself." Orion picks up the drooping sapling, cradling it in his hands. "Survival without vitality, sculptor, is merely existence. The canopy commons provides more than oxygen. It provides a connection to growth, to life beyond the constant grind of the forges. Without it, we lose a part of what makes us, us. I regret to inform you, sculptor, that until these fluctuations cease and my flora begin to recover, my approval for your deep core energy research will remain on hold. The luminos virides are my priority." He turns and walks away, leaving the scent of damp earth and dying flora in his wake. The door hisses shut, leaving you alone in your workshop, the silence suddenly amplified, the faint thrum of the echo catcher now seeming louder, more insistent. You stare at the empty spot where the sapling had been. The paralysis sets in, a creeping numbness that spreads from your core. Orion's decision, an unexpected betrayal of your trust, halts your progress, undermines your carefully laid plans. The unpredictable flux has struck, not as a physical force, but as a deliberate act of will from another, and it leaves you floundering. You had relied on his predictable, logical nature, on his eventual understanding of your greater purpose. You had miscalculated. The setback is profound. Without Orion's approval, access to the deeper energy conduits is impossible. Your plan to retrieve the echo catcher unit, which relied on your ability to siphon off ambient energy for your disruptors without detection, is now compromised. You could still attempt it, but the risk of discovery would skyrocket. Your mind, usually a pristine instrument of logic, loops in frantic calculations, analyzing, reanalyzing, unable to find a clear path forward. This unexpected betrayal, this abrupt shift in the variables, feels like a physical blow. You are caught in a web of your own making, trapped by your aversion to genuine change. Hours blur into an internal monologue of self-recrimination and desperate strategizing. The obsidian bead in your pocket feels like a burning ember, a tangible reminder of your flawed judgment, your inability to anticipate the truly unpredictable. You had deemed Orion an extraneous element, a mere formality, and now he was a wall. Your goal, to achieve a state of pure, unadulterated form, suddenly seems impossible, tainted by this external, uncontrollable interference. Then a new idea, born of desperation, and a grudging acceptance of the need for adaptation, begins to coalesce. If you cannot rely on the Forge's existing power, you must generate your own. Your secret methods of shaping reality, your intimate, unnerving connection to the fundamental forces of unmaking, could be pressed into service. It is a dangerous path, a process that slowly erodes your own definition. But the allure of the echo catcher, the prospect of controlling the ultimate flux, outweighs the inherent risk. You begin to work, not with the industrial tools of the Forges, but with the subtle, insidious instruments of your true craft. You draw upon the residual energies of the obsidian walls of your chamber, channeling the latent power within the very structure you have shaped. The process is excruciating, a slow, deliberate drawing forth of your own essence, a subtle weakening of your physical form. You are literally unmaking yourself, piece by piece, to create the energy necessary to control the echo catcher. The chill of your obsidian chamber deepens, no longer just a property of the material, but an echo of the growing emptiness within your own form. This internal expenditure changes you. The rigidity of your posture loosens, your gaze, once so fixed, now flickers with an almost frenetic energy. The paralysis, slowly, begins to recede, replaced by a desperate, almost manic resolve. You are learning, in the crucible of your own making and unmaking, that purity sometimes requires a willingness to dirty your hands, to sacrifice parts of yourself you once considered essential. The Xeno-Purge edicts continue to rage across the galaxy, the news filtering down to the Forges in terse, official reports. More worlds fall, more non-human species are integrated or purged. The demand for the new hull plating, perfected by your hand, skyrockets. The fate of entire worlds now rests on the efficiency of these forges, on the strength of the vessels being churned out. The stakes are escalating, not just for your personal quest, but for the galaxy. The Synaptic Cascade Protocol, which Martha Crankshaw seeks to neutralize, is mentioned with increasing frequency in encrypted Imperial communiques, always in hushed, anxious tones. It is described as a wave of uncontrolled psychic resonance, destabilizing planetary populations, causing widespread mental breakdowns among those exposed to unclassified xenopsychic emanations. The Empire fears it could be a weapon or a contagion. The Echo Catcher unit, you realize, is not just an artifact. It is a potential key to either containing or unleashing this galactic catastrophe. Your re-engineered plan is audacious. You will use the channeled energy of your own unmaking to power a localized temporal distortion field, creating a brief window of opportunity to bypass the Echo Catcher's security. It's a method bordering on forbidden science, a transgression against the predictable laws of the Empire, but necessity has forced your hand. The night of your planned infiltration arrives, a hushed and heavy silence permeating the lower forges. Even the usual deep thrum of the hydraulic presses seems muted, swallowed by the sheer mass of rock and metal. You move like a shadow through the obsidian corridors, your specialized gear humming faintly. The chill of the walls is almost unbearable now, and you feel a strange lightness in your limbs, a subtle shift in your center of gravity. You reach the sealed lab where the Echo Catcher is kept. Your temporal distortion field generator, disguised as a standard diagnostic probe, emits a low, almost inaudible whine. The air shimmers imperceptibly. For a fraction of a second, the security grid flickers, the optical sensors momentarily blind, the magnetic locks disengaged. You slip through, a phantom in the temporal gap, and the door sighs shut behind you, the locks re-engaging with an audible clunk. Inside, the Echo Catcher unit glows with an unsettling intensity, its multifaceted crystal throbbing with inner light. The neural filaments pulse like a living network of veins. The static buzz is no longer faint. It resonates directly within your mind. 1,000 fragmented voices, emotions, and memories, all swirling in a chaotic eddy. It is horrifying, beautiful, and utterly irresistible. It is pure, uncontrolled flux. As you reach for it, a sudden, sharp voice cuts through the mental din. "Stop right there, Sculptor," Martha Crankshaw. She steps out from behind a bank of sensor arrays, a sleek, Imperial issue plasma disruptor held steady in her hands. Her eyes are narrowed, cold, utterly resolute. "I knew someone would come for it. Your scientific curiosity is as transparent as the containment field you just breached, Sculptor." Synaptic Sentinel, you acknowledge, your hand still hovering inches from the Echo Catcher. Your voice is steady, betraying none of the adrenaline coursing through your veins. "My purpose here is to ensure its stability, to contain the very chaos you so fear." "Contain it," Martha scoffs, a humorless laugh escaping her lips. "You wish to control it, to dissect it, to bend it to your will. Your obsession with pure form blinds you to the inherent dangers of this artifact. It is a conduit, Sculptor, for the Synaptic Cascade Protocol. Every fragment of psychic impression it stores, every thought it replays, fuels the protocol's spread. It amplifies the chaos. It doesn't contain it. You misunderstand, you counter, the static buzz of the echo catcher intensifying, merging with the growing tension in the room. The protocol is merely uncontrolled information, a cacophony of extraneous data. If I can refine it, strip away the impurities, I can harness its power, turn it into a tool for Imperial order. Imagine a device that can read the raw intentions of xenospecies, allowing us to preempt their threats, to truly impose stability through understanding. You are delusional, Martha snarls, taking a step closer, her disruptor leveling. You speak of understanding, but you practice unmaking. You believe you can distill chaos into order, but you will only unleash a greater horror. This is not a tool to be refined. It is a plague to be neutralized. The protocol has already claimed entire populations. It drives them mad, turns them against themselves. My goal is to prevent the destruction of every thinking mind in the Empire, not to see it warped into a tool. A desperate fight. This is it. Your goals, seemingly reasonable, yours to bring order through refinement, hers to bring order through neutralization, have collided. The core misunderstanding lies in the nature of the echo catcher itself and the synaptic cascade protocol it influences. You see it as raw material, a canvas for your sculpting. She sees it as a virulent infection. Your rigid adherence to process, your belief that any chaos can be refined, is directly opposed to her conviction that some things must simply be destroyed. The Empire needs this power, you insist, your fingers twitching, ready to grab the echo catcher. The Xeno-Purge edicts are a desperate measure. With this, we could achieve true dominion, not through brute force, but through mastery of thought itself. Think of the purity of purpose we could achieve. And at what cost? Martha retorts, her finger tightening on the trigger. The cost of individual will, the cost of consciousness itself. The protocol doesn't refine, sculptor. It erases. It homogenizes. You talk of shedding extraneous elements, but it sheds everything until only an empty vessel remains. It's a psychic void, not a pure form. You make your move, a surge of the unmade energy you've cultivated flowing through you. You didn't just plan to disable the containment. You planned to activate the echo catcher to its full potential, using the energy to overwhelm Martha's synaptic defenses. Your hand darts out, snatching the echo catcher unit from its suspension field. As your fingers close around the intricate cage of neural filaments, an electric jolt lances through your arm, searing up to your brain. The static buzz explodes into a deafening roar of fragmented thoughts, a torrent of raw, unfiltered psychic impressions. It's not just static, it's 1,000 screams, 1,000,000 whispers, the agonizing fear of hunted xenospecies, the cold, calculating purpose of Imperial commanders, the joy of a child, the despair of a dying worker. It is the entire spectrum of sentient experience, crashing into your mind with the force of a supernova. You stumble, the intensity almost too much to bear. Martha fires. The plasma disruptor spits a crackling bolt of superheated energy. You instinctively activate a microshield, woven from your unmade energy, deflecting the bolt with a shimmering crack that sends sparks showering across the lab. "Give it up, sculptor," Martha yells, her face a mask of grim determination. "You cannot control that power. It will consume you." "I am the master of unmaking," you shout back, the echo catcher vibrating violently in your grasp, the sheer force of its psychic emissions threatening to tear your mind apart. You feel the boundaries of your own consciousness begin to blur, the definitions of self eroding under the onslaught of alien thought. But amidst the chaos, a strange clarity emerges. This is the ultimate form of flux, the ultimate challenge to your philosophy. To impose order here, to sculpt this raw psychic energy, would be your greatest triumph. You channel more of your own unmade essence into the echo catcher, seeking to impose your will upon its chaotic output. The multifaceted crystal pulses brighter, its light growing from blue to an angry, pulsing violet. The neural filaments thrum with an insane energy, sparking and arcing. The mental noise amplifies, becoming a tangible force that batters against the walls of the lab, causing equipment to spark and shatter. Martha is relentless. She fires again, a rapid burst of plasma bolts, forcing you to constantly reorient your energy shield, draining your already stretched reserves. You realize she isn't just trying to stop you. She's trying to destroy the echo catcher itself, even if it means destroying you with it. Her goal is neutralization, absolute and uncompromising. "You will destroy us all," she screams, her voice barely audible over the growing roar. You retaliate, not with a weapon, but with the echo catcher itself. You point the artifact at Martha, channeling the most aggressive, chaotic impulses it contains, focusing them into a raw psychic blast. The multifaceted crystal emits a piercing, high-frequency wail, a wave of concentrated mental anguish and confusion. Martha stumbles, clutching her head, her disruptor clattering to the floor. Her eyes widen in shock and pain, and for a moment, her synaptic sentinel composure cracks. You madman," she gasps, struggling against the psychic onslaught. "This is your chance. You could neutralize her, take her out of the equation." But as you focus the echo catcher's power, a flicker of an image erupts in your mind, plucked from the psychic maelstrom. Orion Thorn, his face etched with worry, cradling the dying Luminos virides sapling. His accusation rings in your ears. Survival without vitality is merely existence. And then a memory, sharp and cold, of the small obsidian bead in your pocket. It is the same chill, the same emptiness you feel now, being so intimately connected to the echo catcher, so utterly immersed in the process of unmaking. This is the synaptic cascade protocol, you realize with a horrifying clarity. It isn't just psychic noise. It's the absence of defining self, the erosion of individual identity. It's a process of unmaking, yes, but one without direction, without the guiding hand of a sculptor. It is the ultimate flux, consuming everything in its path, stripping away not just extraneous elements, but the very core of being. And in your hands, you hold the amplifier, the insight, the profound connection between the synaptic cascade protocol, the echo catcher unit, and your own philosophy of unmaking hits you with the force of a physical blow. Your obsidian chamber, the polished surfaces you so admired, the chill you felt, it was not merely construction. It was the solidified residue of your own being, the physical manifestation of the parts of yourself that you had deemed imperfect and shed through your unmaking processes. Every polished surface you admired was a reflection of a sacrificed aspect of your own existence. The chill you felt was not from the material, but from the growing emptiness within your own form as you continued to refine the perfect exterior. The small obsidian bead, clutched in your pocket, burns with a chilling fire, echoing the emptiness now blossoming within your chest. It is not just an artifact of your past. It is a fragment of yourself, discarded, solidified, cold. The echo catcher, by amplifying all consciousness, inadvertently revealed the ultimate consequence of your own path. To achieve pure, unadulterated form by shedding all extraneous elements was to become empty, a perfectly polished void. The synaptic cascade protocol was merely your own philosophy writ large, an uncontrolled, galactic unmaking. You drop the echo catcher. It clatters to the floor, its multifaceted crystal still pulsing, but its psychic roar suddenly muted, as if startled by your revelation. The neural filaments continue to thrum, but the overwhelming sense of mental chaos recedes, replaced by a horrifying internal silence. Martha, still reeling from the psychic blast, scrambles for her disruptor. She looks at you, her eyes filled with a mixture of suspicion and a dawning comprehension of your sudden shift. What was that? She rasps, gripping her head. I understand now, you say, your voice hollow, echoing in the suddenly quiet lab. The echo catcher on the floor emits a faint, almost imperceptible static buzz, a gentle thrumming that no longer assaults your mind, but whispers of the untold stories it contains. The synaptic cascade protocol. It is not merely a weapon or a contagion. It is the natural endpoint of my philosophy, unbound. The purest form is not an empty one, Martha. It is one that has integrated all its elements, all its flux, into a coherent whole. Martha looks from you to the echo catcher, then back to you, her expression hardening. You realized it too late, sculptor. The protocol is spreading. Your understanding changes nothing. This artifact must be neutralized before it consumes another world. She aims her disruptor at the fallen echo catcher. No, you shout, lunging forward, not to reclaim it, but to shield it. It is not the source, Martha. It is merely an amplifier. Neutralizing it would be a temporary reprieve, not a cure. The protocol, the true source of this unmaking, lies within the very core of what the Empire calls order. A new tremor shakes the lab deeper, more resonant than any you felt before. Not the Forge's usual rhythm, but something ancient, vast, and awakening. Lights flicker, consoles spark, and a deep, guttural groan emanates from the very bedrock beneath your feet. What is that? Martha demands, her disruptor wavering. The source, you reply, your gaze fixed on the floor. The source of the synaptic cascade protocol, the Xeno-Purge edicts. They are not merely external subjugation. They are an attempt to impose a uniform Imperial psychic template upon the galaxy. But some species, their minds are not meant to be unmade into Imperial conformity. Their resistance, their very psychic presence, creates a feedback loop, a cascade of uncontrolled psychic energy that the echo catcher simply amplifies. The Empire, in its pursuit of rigid order, has unleashed the ultimate form of flux upon itself. The realization is a cold, hard stone in your gut. Your own goals, your own process of unmaking, perfectly mirrored the destructive folly of the Empire. You are a micro-reflection of a macro disaster. The floor beneath you cracks, a spiderweb pattern spreading rapidly. A section of the wall beside you, solid obsidian, crumbles, revealing a dark, pulsing void beyond. From within, a low, mournful hum intensifies, accompanied by flashes of raw, uncontrolled psychic energy. The core, you whisper, the obsidian bead in your pocket now pulsing with an agonizing heat. The heart of the Progenitor Forges. It's built upon something ancient, something that rejects Imperial order, something the Xeno-Purge edicts have finally provoked beyond endurance. Martha, ever the synaptic sentinel, recognizes the new threat instantly. Her disruptor, momentarily aimed at the echo catcher, now swivels towards the emerging void. It's a psychic breach, a core rupture. The synaptic cascade protocol is emanating directly from the bedrock. Destroying the echo catcher won't stop this, Martha, you plead, a frantic urgency in your voice. It is merely a mirror. We must understand the source, integrate with it, not eradicate it. Like Orion's flora, like my own being, true strength comes from balance, not from forced uniformity. Just then, the lab door hisses open. Orion Thorn stands there, his face ashen, the small sapling clutched in his hand now completely lifeless, its leaves shriveled and black. Behind him, you see flashes of red and amber warning lights, hear the rising crescendo of alarms. The forges are descending into chaos. The canopy commons. It's gone, Orion whispers, his voice devoid of its usual calm. The Luminos Virides, they all died. A psychic shockwave. It resonated through the entire power grid, a silent scream that shattered every delicate biological structure. His eyes fall upon the broken wall, the pulsing void, the shuddering floor, and finally, upon the echo catcher unit lying abandoned on the floor. This is what caused it, isn't it? His gaze, filled with betrayal and profound sadness, pierces you. Your rigid adherence to your own goals, your inability to adapt to his initial warnings, your covert manipulation of the Forge's energy, it all contributed to this. His unexpected betrayal earlier, halting your research, was a direct consequence of your own actions, a warning you had failed to heed. Your flaw, your aversion to unpredictable flux, had led to a betrayal of trust, and now to the destruction of his life's work. No, Orion, you say, your voice thick with a newfound humility, not the echo catcher itself, but the ignorance that allowed it to be amplified, and the hubris that attempted to control it without understanding. The Empire's ignorance and my own. You pick up the echo catcher. It hums softly in your hands, no longer chaotic, but a focused, resonant vibration. We need to go to the core, you declare, turning to both Martha and Orion. a new purpose hardening your resolve. The source of the protocol. The echo catcher is not a weapon to be destroyed, nor a tool to be controlled. It is a conduit. We must use it to understand, to bridge the gap between our minds and whatever ancient consciousness the Empire has tried to unmake. Martha still looks skeptical, but the escalating crisis, the crumbling walls, the psychic ruptures, leave her with little choice. And if it's too late, Sculptor, if this ancient consciousness simply consumes us, then we will have faced it with understanding, not blind aggression, you reply, the obsidian bead in your pocket, now a cool, heavy weight. You look at Orion. Root tender, your knowledge of ecological balance, of interconnected systems, may be our only hope. If any mind can grasp the intricacies of a consciousness that seeks to integrate rather than eradicate, it is yours. Orion, his grief palpable, nods slowly. The Canopy Commons always sought to create balance, even within the confines of Imperial order. If this entity simply wishes to reclaim what was taken, perhaps it can be reasoned with. The three of you descend into the crumbling depths of the forges, a desperate alliance forged in the face of galactic catastrophe. The path is treacherous. The once stable pathways are now fractured, convulsing under the immense psychic pressures. Molten alloy spills from ruptured conduits. Lava flows where once were ordered streams of metal. The cacophony of the forges is replaced by the guttural roars of stressed rock and the chilling, omnipresent hum of the psychic breach. As you venture deeper, your internal world resonates with a horrifying clarity. The walls of your once perfect obsidian chamber, far above, would be crumbling now, reflecting the unraveling of your own being. The chill of the material, the emptiness you sought to cultivate, was a lie. Purity was not absence, but the complete, harmonious presence of self. The twist in your gut, the cold recognition, settles into a grim determination. You cannot unmake the universe, but you can, perhaps, remake yourself. You find the true core of the Progenitor Forges, not an engineered chamber, but a colossal, cavernous space, impossibly ancient, glowing with a soft, organic, bioluminescent light that is almost an insult to the brutal industrial complex built around it. In the center, a colossal crystalline formation, pulsing with raw energy, extends from the floor to the vaulted ceiling. It is the heart of a xeno-organism, a sentient planetary core that the Empire had long ago encapsulated and exploited, mistaking its intricate psychic network for inert mineral deposits. The Xeno-Purge edicts had not just been about eradicating sentient species, they had been about systematically dismantling the very psychic fabric of the galaxy, unaware that they were also dismantling themselves. This crystalline heart is the true source of the synaptic cascade protocol. It is not an attack. It is a desperate cry, a defense mechanism, a cascade of pure, unfiltered xeno-consciousness rebelling against the forced unmaking of its kind. The air here is thick with alien thought, a beautiful, terrifying tapestry of sensory input. The scent of 1,000 different alien flowers, the sound of ancient songs, the sight of star-filled nebulae, the taste of unknown fruits. It is all the flux you ever feared, and yet, in its raw, unadulterated form, it holds a profound, undeniable beauty. It's trying to communicate, Orion whispers, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. He holds up the dead sapling, its shriveled form a stark contrast to the vibrant life pulsing around them. This is what the Luminos Virides were trying to tell me. The harmony, the interconnectedness. I failed to listen. Martha, her disruptor still gripped tightly, eyes the pulsating crystal with a mixture of fear and synaptic sentinel resolve. It's overwhelming. We can't let this spread beyond the forges. It will shatter every mind in its path. It's not trying to shatter, you insist, raising the echo catcher unit. It glows, resonating with the ancient crystal, but no longer with chaos. You've begun to understand it, to fine-tune it. It's trying to connect, to reclaim its form, to integrate the disconnected parts of itself. The protocol is a consequence of the Empire's attempt to sever those connections. You lift the echo catcher, holding it aloft. The multifaceted crystal within pulses in sync with the colossal formation before you. Martha, Orion, we must merge our consciousness with it. Not to control, not to neutralize, but to bridge. To offer understanding, to prove that Imperial humanity can also integrate, not just conquer. Martha hesitates, her face a mask of conflict. Her entire life has been dedicated to neutralizing threats, to purging the undesirable. But the sheer scale of the psychic entity before them, the very bedrock of the forges coming alive, challenges every tenet of her training. If we fail, Sculptor, we unleash absolute chaos. The fate of the world rests on this. The fate of the world is already at risk, Synaptic Sentinel, Orion says, stepping forward, his voice firm despite his grief. We have pushed it too far. The only path forward is through understanding, not further conflict. You nod. This is the truth, the ultimate unraveling of the directive mandate. Order imposed without understanding breeds only deeper chaos. You close your eyes, centering yourself. The echo catcher hums, a low, inviting thrum against your palm. You open your mind, stripping away the last vestiges of your old rigidity, embracing the flux, the unpredictable nature of this desperate act. You feel the boundaries of yourself dissolve, not into emptiness, but into an expansion, a connection to something far greater. Martha and Orion place their hands on your shoulders, a silent pact. You feel their minds, their doubts, their hopes, their fears flow into you, merging with your own. Through the echo catcher, you become a conduit, a bridge between the disparate forms of consciousness. The ancient crystal responds. A wave of pure, benevolent energy washes over you, carrying with it a profound sense of welcome, of ancient grief, of a longing for connection. You, Martha, and Orion are flooded with the history of this living world, its quiet existence, its slow awakening beneath the crushing weight of the Progenitor Forges, its desperate struggle to protect its brethren across the galaxy from the Xeno-Purge edicts. You perceive its pain, the psychic wounds inflicted by the Empire's relentless unmaking. It is not an attack. It is a communication, A plea. You respond, not with words, but with shared intent. You project images of a different path, of integration, of coexistence, of the beauty of diverse forms existing in harmony. You show the sorrow in Orion's heart for his lost flora, a symbol of the interconnected life that the Empire now unknowingly threatened. You show Martha's unwavering dedication to protecting minds, even if her methods were flawed. And you show your own transformation, your shedding of the illusion of empty purity, your embrace of the full, vibrant spectrum of existence. The ancient crystal shimmers, its light intensifying, but with a gentle warmth, not an aggressive pulse. The destructive psychic cascade begins to recede, absorbed back into the core, no longer a weapon, but a reservoir of potential. The tremors in the forge's lessen, the ruptures begin to seal, almost imperceptibly. The communion lasts for what feels like an eternity, a profound and transformative experience that reshapes the very essence of your being. When you finally break the connection, the echo catcher still hums in your hand, its light now a soft, serene blue. The emptiness you felt from your unmaking is replaced by a sense of profound wholeness, a quiet integration of all the elements you once sought to shed. The obsidian bead in your pocket is no longer cold, it is warm, resonating with the vibrant life force that now pulses within you. Martha stares at the now calm crystalline core, her disruptor lowered, her face softened by an expression of wonder. It communicated. It understood. The synaptic cascade protocol was never a weapon. It was a cry for help. Her goal to neutralize the protocol had led her to its true understanding. Orion, tears tracing paths through the soot on his cheeks, sinks to his knees before the ancient crystal. It wants to live. It wants to grow, like the Luminos virides. He looks at you, a glimmer of his old hope in his eyes. We can still save it. We can still help it recede, help it reconnect with its brethren. The resolution of your internal conflict is complete. Your quest for pure, unadulterated form was a misguided journey into self-annihilation. True purity, you now understand, is not the shedding of extraneous elements, but the integration of all components, the embracing of flux and change as essential to existence. The chill of the obsidian in your chamber, the empty perfection, was a reflection of your own slow erosion. Now, you feel full, vibrant, connected. The immediate crisis of the core rupture is averted, but the long work remains. The three of you emerge from the depths of the forges into a scene of widespread, but contained, devastation. Imperial forces are scrambling, attempting to restore order, their faces etched with confusion and fear at the inexplicable psychic event. Your first action is to contact Centurion Jax, explaining the truth of the core, of the xeno-consciousness beneath the forges, and the true nature of the synaptic cascade protocol. The directive mandate, you argue, must now be reinterpreted. Imposing order cannot mean eradication or subjugation, but integration and understanding. It is a radical concept, a direct challenge to the very foundation of imperial governance, but the undeniable evidence of a living planetary core, the silent testament of the echo catcher unit, and the combined testimony of a synaptic sentinel, a root tender, and an obsidian sculptor gives your words weight. Martha Crankshaw, her rigid synaptic sentinel protocols, now expanded by a deeper understanding, takes on the monumental task of re-educating Imperial command about the nature of xenopsychic phenomena. She argues for new policies, not of purge, but of sensitive interaction and diplomatic engagement, using the echo catcher unit as both proof and as a tool for translation, a bridge for understanding the nuanced psychic impressions of species deemed undesirable. She begins to re-engineer the synaptic cascade protocol itself, transforming it from a force of destructive unmaking into a pathway for interspecies communication, for integration. Orion Thorne dedicates himself to the healing of the living planet core, using his knowledge of bioluminescent flora and integrated ecosystems to help the ancient consciousness recover. His new goal is not just to propagate the Luminos Virides throughout the Canopy Commons, but to help re-establish a galactic network of symbiotic, interconnected life, a true Canopy Commons that stretches across the stars, fostering life that thrives on diversity, not uniformity. You, the Obsidian Sculptor, work alongside him, no longer focused on unmaking, but on building, on shaping new structures that honor the inherent vibrancy of life and thought. You design containment fields not for eradication, but for nurturing. You sculpt materials that resonate with natural frequencies, not against them. Your own research shifts dramatically. The echo catcher unit becomes a tool, not for control, but for empathy. You begin to train others in the subtle art of understanding psychic resonance, of interpreting the fragments of thought it contains, of using it to build bridges, not walls. Your methods of unmaking are transformed. You no longer seek to shed parts of yourself or of the world, but to understand them, to integrate them into a more complete, more harmonious whole. Your chamber, your sanctuary, is no longer a monument to emptiness, but a workshop for balanced creation. Its obsidian walls now feeling warm to the touch, no longer a reflection of sacrificed self, but a testament to profound, internal resilience. The small, polished obsidian bead, once a chilling reminder of your flawed quest for purity, now sits on your workbench, a warm, smooth stone that represents not an imperfection shed, but an integrated memory, a part of your journey that brought you to a deeper truth. It is no longer insignificant. It is the quiet anchor of your transformation. The directive mandate is not abandoned, but reshaped. Imperial governance begins a slow, painful pivot from absolute dominion to a more nuanced form of galactic stewardship, forced by the undeniable proof of intelligent, interconnected life on a planetary scale. The Xeno-Purge edicts are not immediately revoked, but they are re-evaluated, recontextualized. The Empire, like you, learns that true strength lies not in the ruthless shedding of difference, but in the profound, complex beauty of its integration. The metallic clang of hammers in the distance, the hiss of quenching fluids, the rumble of hydraulic presses They continue. But now, beneath it all, you can feel the faint, harmonious thrum of a planetary heart, beating in quiet coexistence, a melody of renewed life in the heart of the Progenitor Forges. The galaxy, once on the precipice of a silent, psychic void, now breathes a cautious, hopeful breath. And you, the former Obsidian Sculptor, now redefined as a bridge weaver of consciousness, stand ready to sculpt a new, more complete future.